Another year bites the dust. Can you believe it? We're all supposed to be reflecting on the last 12 months. Did we accomplish our goals? Did we become dazzling new versions of ourselves? Let's be honest, we probably spent most of the year surviving, juggling work, family, and the never-ending quest for matching socks. And now, as the year winds down, we're bombarded with messages about New Year's resolutions. It's time to finally lose those 10 pounds, learn a new language, and become a morning person. Gasp. The problem is, we often set ourselves up for failure before we even begin. We make these grand pronouncements about transforming our lives. But deep down, there's a little voice whispering, yeah, right. Good luck with that. We tell ourselves we'll hit the gym every day, only to find ourselves snuggled up on the couch with a pint of ice cream when the alarm goes off. We vow to eat healthier, then devour an entire pizza. Because, hey, it's Friday. Don't worry. We've all been there. As someone who's spent a good chunk of her life striving for perfection, I can tell you this. It's a recipe for disaster. I used to think that if I wasn't achieving at the highest level in every area of my life, I was a failure. I was the queen of setting unrealistic expectations and then beating myself up when I inevitably fell short. It took me a while to realize that this all or nothing approach was actually a form of self-sabotage. We, as women, are often conditioned to be pleasers. We're taught to put everyone else's needs before our own. We're supposed to be successful in our careers, amazing mothers, supportive partners, and still find time to whip up a gourmet meal, all while looking effortlessly fabulous. It's exhausting. And when we inevitably crack under the pressure, we blame ourselves. We tell ourselves we're not good enough, strong enough, or disciplined enough. But here's the truth. We are enough, just as we are. This year, I'm giving you permission to ditch the resolutions. I'm giving you permission to let go of the pressure to be perfect. Instead of setting yourself up for failure with unrealistic goals, let's focus on making small, sustainable changes. Let's give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to stumble and fall, and to get back up again. This year, let's focus on progress, not perfection. Think of it this way, we're all works in progress. None of us have it all figured out, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's beautiful. This year, let's embrace the messiness of life. Let's celebrate our imperfections and laugh at our mistakes. Let's be kind to ourselves, even when we screw up. Because the truth is, self-compassion is the key to unlocking our full potential. It's the foundation for real, lasting change. So, what exactly is self-sabotage? It's that sneaky little voice inside our heads that tells us we're not good enough, smart enough, or thin enough to go after what we really want. It's the fear that whispers, what if you fail? Louder than the hope that whispers, what if you fly? And let's be honest, sometimes that fear-mongering voice sounds suspiciously like our mothers, our best friends, or that one critical aunt we try to avoid at family gatherings. Here's the thing about self-sabotage. It disguises itself as something helpful. It wears a lot of different masks. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. You know, that urgent need to reorganize your sock drawer when you have a deadline looming. Or maybe it shows up as people pleasing, where you say yes to everyone and everything, even when your soul is screaming for a nap and a glass of wine. Or maybe that's just me. Self-sabotage is a master of disguise, but at its core, it's all about fear. Fear is a natural human emotion. It's what kept our ancestors from being eaten by saber-toothed tigers. But today, our fears are more about emotional vulnerability. We're afraid of failure, rejection, judgment, and even success. So, we sabotage ourselves. Let me give you an example. You've always dreamed of writing a book. But then the fear creeps in. What if it's not good enough? So you start finding other things to fill your time. You binge watch Netflix, scroll through social media, and even organize your neighbor's Tupperware drawer, anything to avoid facing that fear. And ladies, let's talk about perfectionism for a minute. This is a big one for us. We live in a society that tells us we need to be everything to everyone all the time. We're supposed to be successful in our careers, amazing mothers, supportive partners, and still find time to bake award-winning cupcakes for the school bake sale. From scratch, of course. It's exhausting. And it's impossible. The problem with perfectionism is that it's not about healthy striving or growth. It's about earning approval and avoiding judgment. It's about trying to control the uncontrollable, and it's a surefire way to stay stuck. Because here's the thing, perfection doesn't exist. It's a mythical creature like unicorns and calorie-free pizza. And chasing after something that's unattainable will only leave you feeling defeated and discouraged. Remember that game we used to play as kids? The one where we'd look at our friends' toys and think, her dollhouse is way cooler than mine, or his action figures are so much more awesome. Yeah, well, it turns out we never really outgrew that game. We just traded in the toys for more grown-up versions. Now it's, her career is so much more impressive than mine, or her Instagram feed makes my life look like a dumpster fire. Social media, my friends, is the ultimate breeding ground for the comparison game. We scroll through our feeds, bombarded with images of seemingly perfect lives, perfect families, perfect vacations, perfect avocado toast. Seriously, how do they get it to look so good? And we start to feel inadequate. We question our choices, our accomplishments, even our worth. We forget that social media is a highlight reel, not a documentary. It's a carefully curated collection of the best moments, edited to perfection. And we're comparing our bloopers to everyone else's finished product. The imposter syndrome soiree. Speaking of feeling inadequate, let's talk about imposter syndrome. This is another classic self-sabotage move, and it's especially prevalent among women. It's that nagging feeling that you're not as smart, talented, or qualified as everyone thinks you are. That you're just faking it until you make it, and that any minute now you're going to be exposed as a fraud. Here's the thing about imposter syndrome. It loves to show up when we're on the verge of something big. That promotion you've been working towards. Imposter syndrome will tell you you're not ready. That dream job you're about to apply for. Imposter syndrome will convince you you're not qualified. It's like that annoying friend who always rains on your parade, except it lives inside your head, rent-free. Procrastination party. Procrastination. The art of putting things off until the very last minute, even when we know it's going to stress us out in the long run. We all do it. But for some of us, procrastination becomes a way of life. It's a defense mechanism to protect ourselves from the fear of failure, rejection, or even success. Because hey, if we don't even try, we can't possibly fail, right? Procrastination often goes hand in hand with perfectionism. We tell ourselves we'll wait until we have more time, more energy, or more inspiration. We'll start that project tomorrow, or next week, or maybe next year when the planets are aligned just right. But deep down, we know it's just a way of avoiding the real issue, the fear of not being good enough. Negative self-talk tapes. And finally, let's talk about the soundtrack to our self-sabotaging ways. Negative self-talk. This is the voice inside our heads that tells us we're not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, thin enough, or fill in the blank enough. It's the voice that criticizes our every move, magnifies our flaws, and reminds us of all our past mistakes. The problem is, we often believe this negative self-talk. We let it define us, limit us, and hold us back from going after what we really want. We forget that our thoughts are not facts. They're just thoughts. And we have the power to choose which ones we listen to. All right, ladies, now that we've identified some of the sneaky ways we self-sabotage, it's time to put on our detective hats and expose those pesky little gremlins. The first step to stopping self-sabotage is recognizing when it's happening. Easier said than done, right? These little buggers are masters of disguise. They love to blend in with our thoughts and feelings, making it hard to tell the difference between their voices and our own. One of the sneakiest things about self-sabotage is that it often masquerades as something helpful. It's like that friend who offers you a giant slice of chocolate cake when you're trying to eat healthily. Go on. One slice won't hurt, they whisper, knowing full well that one slice will turn into 2, then 3, and before you know it, you're elbow deep in frosting, wondering where your willpower went. So, you've identified some of your self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors. Now what? Time to flip the script. Remember that negative self-talk we talked about? That inner critic who loves to remind you of all your flaws and failures? It's time to give that voice a makeover. Imagine your negative self-talk as a grumpy old neighbor who's always complaining about something. You wouldn't invite that neighbor over for tea and cookies, would you? So why give their negative chatter any space in your head? Start by noticing when that negative self-talk pops up. What triggers it? Is it a certain person, situation, or even a specific time of day? Once you're aware of the patterns, you can start to challenge those negative thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Would I say this to a friend? Is this thought helpful or hurtful? Chances are, when you really examine those negative thoughts, they'll start to lose their power. One of the biggest mistakes we make when trying to change our behavior is setting unrealistic expectations. We tell ourselves we're going to overhaul our entire lives overnight. We're going to become morning workout enthusiasts, gourmet chefs, and Zen masters of productivity, all while maintaining a spotless house and perfectly coiffed hair. No pressure or anything. Here's the thing. Real change happens gradually. It's about taking small, consistent steps in the right direction, not giant leaps that leave us feeling overwhelmed and discouraged. Instead of trying to change everything at once, focus on one small habit you want to improve. Maybe it's drinking more water, going to bed earlier, or taking 5 minutes each day for yourself to simply breathe and be present. Embrace the imperfect. This is a big one, ladies. We live in a culture that worships perfection. We're bombarded with images of airbrush models, perfectly curated Instagram feeds, and seemingly effortless success stories. It's easy to get caught up in the comparison game and feel like we're not good enough, smart enough, or thin enough. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion. It's a mythical creature like unicorns and calorie-free pizza. So this year, let's give ourselves permission to be perfectly imperfect. Let's embrace our flaws, our quirks, and our messy, beautiful humanity. Let's celebrate our accomplishments, no matter how small, and learn from our mistakes without beating ourselves up. Remember, progress, not perfection, is the goal. And when we approach life with a spirit of self-compassion and acceptance, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. From self-doubt to center stage, remember that feeling of dread when you had to give a presentation in school? Your palms would sweat, your voice would crack. That was Sarah's reality. She was a talented writer plagued by self-doubt. A voice in her head whispered, "What if it's not good enough?" Sarah had always loved to write. As a child, she created fantastical worlds. But she started to believe her writing wasn't good enough. She compared herself to other writers. Fear held her back, leaving her unfulfilled. The marathon runner who started with a single step. Now let's talk about Maria. Maria wasn't exactly what you'd call athletic. In fact, she'd spent most of her life avoiding any form of physical activity. Gym class in school had been a nightmare of awkward tumbles and embarrassing moments. But when Maria turned 40, she decided it was time for a change. She wanted to feel stronger, healthier, and more confident. There was just one small problem. She could barely run a block without getting winded. The thought of running a marathon seemed impossible, but Maria was determined. She started small with short walks around her neighborhood. She gradually increased her distance and pace, and before she knew it, she was running 5Ks, then 10Ks, and even a half marathon. It wasn't easy. There were days when Maria wanted to quit. Her muscles ached, her lungs burned, and that little voice in her head whispered, "You're never going to be a runner." But Maria refused to listen. Have you ever had a brilliant business idea? You know, the kind of idea that keeps you up at night, scribbling notes on napkins and daydreaming about quitting your day job? That was Lisa's life for years. She had a head full of innovative ideas, but she was paralyzed by the fear of failure. What if her business flopped? What if she lost all her money? What if everyone thought she was crazy for even trying? Lisa had always been a creative thinker. She was the one who came up with the out-of-the-box solutions. At work, the one who could always see the potential in a challenging situation. But when it came to her own dreams, she let fear hold her back. She had witnessed firsthand the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Her own father had owned a small business that had ultimately failed, leaving their family struggling financially. Now let's talk about creativity. Not just the paint and canvas kind, but the kind that lives inside all of us. The spark of inspiration that makes us want to write, to dance, to sing, to build, to create something beautiful and meaningful. For years, Emily had silenced that creative spark. She had always loved to paint, but somewhere along the way, she had convinced herself that she wasn't a real artist. Emily had grown up surrounded by art. Her mother was a talented painter, and their home was filled with her mother's colorful canvases. As a child, Emily loved to spend hours in her mother's studio, experimenting with different colors and textures, losing herself in the act of creation. But as she got older, she started to compare herself to her mother's talent. She convinced herself that she could never live up to her mother's artistic abilities, so she gave up on her own dreams. So, here we are, on the cusp of a brand new year, a blank page in the story of our lives. And while the temptation to make grand pronouncements about self-improvement might be strong, let's take a different approach this year. Let's ditch the pressure to be perfect and embrace the messy, beautiful journey of becoming our most authentic selves. This year, let's focus on progress, not perfection. Let's celebrate our small victories, learn from our setbacks, and extend ourselves the same grace and compassion we would offer a dear friend. Let's silence that inner critic who tells us we're not good enough, smart enough, or brave enough. Let's rewrite the narrative with a voice of self-love, acceptance, and unwavering belief in our own potential. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, a journey, a dance between our aspirations and our realities. There will be days when we soar to new heights, and there will be days when we stumble and fall. There will be moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. But through it all, let's remember to be kind to ourselves, to celebrate our imperfections, and to never, ever give up on our dreams. So this New Year's Eve, as the clock strikes midnight and the fireworks light up the sky, let's raise a toast. A toast to imperfect progress, to self-compassion, and to the courage to embrace the messy, beautiful, ever-evolving journey of becoming our most authentic selves. Cheers to a year of growth, self-discovery, and unwavering self-love. Cheers to you! And don't forget to subscribe for more motivation right here at Priority Mindset. See you in the next video, or should I say, see you next year.